Hello, this is Allegedly Nerdy here, and today we are going to be talking about mechanized tactics using Salamander Reconnaissance tanks. Um, as the subheader says, you want to push them hard and you want to push them fast. So the Salamander, you might not know what it is. It's an old forge-world model out of production. Good thing for that, most tournaments will allow you to kit bash them up. You can kit bash them out of a Chimera for $40. Just the cost of a Chimera plus a little bit of plasticard and putting an autocannon on it. So it's a movement 12 vehicle, Chimera chassis. So weapon skill 6 up, ballistic skill 4 up, strength 7, toughness 7, strength 6, toughness 7, 10 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 7, save 3 up. Now the important thing there is that it's toughness 7, it has 10 wounds, it has a 3 up save. Now then, this is mostly going to be used if you're running mechanized, and the reason is, this makes another target besides your chimeras. You need your chimeras to shield your troops and to get your troops around. So if they have to decide between shooting at this and shooting at your chimeras, well, most players are going to shoot at the one that's closer to them, just out of habit or whatever, but there's another purpose to it, which is it has the scout ahead rule, or scout vehicle rule, which means it can move 9 inches before first turn. That has a 12-inch movement. That is 21 inches. That's almost into your opponent's deployment zone in pretty much every single deployment type you're going to be using, especially at tournaments. What that means is that you are going to be right in their face, hopefully, and most armies have a tendency, especially gun 9 armies, which Morty and Glory made a video about this, momentum. They have a tendency to box up into a defensive shooting formation if something gets that close to them, which means that you can go out and you can get your infantry onto the objectives. And also it doesn't have all that bad of reduction on it. It has a heavy bolting on autocannon, pretty good. 78 points, so it's double the price of a Scout Sentinel with a multi-laser. But I think that it's a lot better because it has way more wounds. So how would you really use this? Well, the ideal list you would have with this is a brigade with at least 6 infantry squads with chimeras, at least 3 salamanders in it. You're going to use them as distractions for your chimeras. And then other highly mobile vehicles may help. Reconnaissance tanks might be a good idea to bring with you because you can bring them really fast since you're not running them. Since you don't have to worry about grinding advance, you can move them the full movement distance. Yeah, you're hitting on 5s, but still, stick some Volkite weapons on them. They might be good. So your deployment, Salamanders should be as far forward as possible. Use them as screens for your chimeras. Ideally, this will completely depend on scenario. The example scenario I have later will be a little bit different, but ideally, you have task forces of 2 chimeras, 1 salamander, and 1 tank or other vehicle, and the salamander pushes forward and pushes towards the enemy, while the chimeras and the tank move towards an objective, or sit on an objective if there's one in your deployment zone. So this is deployment. Across the bottom here is your deployment zone. These are salamanders. These are chimeras. And these are tanks. Conodons and Lumen Rushes or whatever. You'd probably have some other stuff in here too. Enemy deployment, it's pretty generic because it will really depend on what you do. Sort of what the example I have set up shows. It's a more close combat focused army. So you're going to deploy like that. And then, so pre-turn 1, you're going to move your salamanders forward as much as possible. Bypass the objectives unless objectives are really key or there's terrain in the way or whatever. And then ideally, in turn 1, the guard will go first. Probably won't happen, but it's possible. In that case, you'd move your chimeras up towards your objectives. You can move your tanks up, keep them in place. move your salamanders in. Now then, the enemy is going to box up into defensive formation against them, probably, or if it's a close combat army, they're actually going to charge in, because they know that if they're in close combat with you, especially if it's something that can kill a tank, you're not going to be able to kill them. What that means is that, first of all, you've drawn them out towards your guns. Secondly, they're not on the objective anymore if they charge in. Which, yeah, it's debatable whether that would happen, but I mean, you're going to have trouble against close combat armies no matter what when you're running Mech Guard, because a lot of close combat stuff is good at taking out vehicles. But if it's even delaying it for a turn so it can't charge into your chimeras, that helps. And, you know, a lot of things might not be able to take out a chimera equivalent in one turn. It's possible, but it's not likely. Unless you're talking about something like 3 Taloses or something, but if you're going up against those, there's not much you can really do anyways. Even the most competitive guard list won't be able to deal with those. But ideally what you want to do is get them to box up. So the shooting gun 9 army, the Tau, or the another guard army, they'll box up to deal with these guys, which means you can get your chimeras all set up here. You could jump out an infantry squad to hold the objective, do all of that good stuff. And then hopefully that will leave you getting points early on. Well, yeah, that's what Mech Guard is good for. You can get points early. You're probably not going to get many points later in the game. Now then, a couple disadvantages for this. First of all, it means it's more 10-wheeled vehicles as opposed to taking Sentinels, which means if you're an ITC big game hunter, it will be a problem. But otherwise, it's a good alternative. Now, a couple of other alternatives people have talked about is the Taurus Venator. So that's 2 las cannons or 2 multi-lasers with 15-inch movement, and I believe it also has scout ahead. Problems with that: most tournaments are going to require you to actually buy one, since it's a currently in production Forge-World vehicle. It has a bit higher movement in it. It's 15-inch movement, and it has the twin las cannons. And if you move its full distance, it does have a 5 up invul. But yeah, the main advantage of taking the Salamander is that the 5 up invul is actually kind of a bad thing, because it means that since you're always going to be moving at full distance, there's not much point, and it has a 4-up save anyways, there's not much point in using anti-tank weapons against it, because those anti-tank weapons are probably just as effective as like an AP-1 assault cannon. The Salamanders you want to use anti-tank weapons against, because they have a 3-up save. And if you're running Armageddon Steel Legion, for instance, your AP-1 auto cannons aren't going to do anything. So that becomes a matter of prioritization. Do you take, let's say you have las cannons, do you take your las cannons and fire at these salamanders that are right up against you, fire at these chimeras which are taking objectives, or fire at these demon russes which are bombarding you? No matter what you choose, you're going to be in a bad situation afterwards. And even ideally, with las cannons, you could take out you take 2 las cannons to take out 1 salamander. So it's like, even if they're all wiped turn 1, that's 6 las cannon equivalent shots that it would take at the least. Probably with average rolling and stuff, that would be more like 9. Average out 3, assuming you're auto hitting and wounding just off of, and no saves are made just off of damage. It would take about between 8 and 9 to wipe all of the salamanders off the field. And since the stat line doesn't decrease until really, really low down, it's pretty beneficial. that about wraps up my thoughts on the Salamanders. I might make a follow-up video if you have any other thoughts on it, or if I see any other interesting commentary on it. But I think that it is a very good way to deal with Mech God. Thank you.